Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a little card game called, well, I think it's called Choson. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. As you can see, very aesthetically stunning game. This is a game in which you are attempting to use these families and control them, have the most of them, both because they're going to give you a bunch of points at the end of the game and because they're going to give you some interesting powers during the game if you have the most. Let me give you an overview of how the game works. We'll come back and I'll tell you what I think of this little game. To win the game, you're going to need the most victory points, which you normally are going to get by controlling these different factions, if you would, which you'll do by having the most of that kind of faction. I'm going to take a closer look at these later on, but for now, just realize that they go 1 through 9, and there's as many as the number, so there are 6 6s, 9 9s, and so on. The game is going to be played over 8 rounds, and these cards here tell you what round it is and tell you a couple of other things. How many cards each player is going to get, and how many cards they're going to be able to keep face up on the table at the end of the round. Everything else in your hand, by the way, is discarded. And each round, that number is going to go down by 1, and this number is going to go up by 1, all the way to the 6th round. You get 5. You'll be able to keep up to 8 at that point, and so on. The last round, you get 3, and you can keep 10. And so let's say it's the first round here, and we're going to have that card on top. Each player gets 10 cards, and we also give this to the start player. And so let's say these are my 10 cards here. We're going to take a look at these. On your turn, everybody, this is simultaneous really, you pick some cards and put them face down, and starting from the start player, we go around and reveal them. You're going to be keeping from this hand one of 4 different possible combinations. The 4 different possible combinations are, you can keep as much as you want of the same number, of the same characters, basically. So I can keep all 3 of these 9s, put them face down in front of me, then once everybody's done that, reveal them, deal with it. Second combination, I can keep 2 different characters, 1 of each. So I could keep this, I could keep a 5 and an 8, whatever. Third combination, I can keep any 1 card except a 9. So basically any 1 card that has a symbol here below the number. The 9's the only one that doesn't, so don't worry about those. And I'll explain what all this does, but you basically keep any 1 number with 1 of these event cards. And the event card's going to trigger a power based on that symbol, and you'll keep the 8 in front of you once you reveal it, alright? And the last combination, the 4th combination, is you can take and play 3 of these event cards. It's very hard to pull off because there's not that many in the deck, but if you can do this, you will just show them. You will not keep any of these, but then you will take a token in the game that's going to give you some bonus points at the end of the game if you've still got it. If someone else later on plays 3 of those event cards, they would take that token from you. Having the most of each number at the end of the game is going to give you that many points. So for example, the player with the most 8s at the end of the game will get 8 points from that. But typically each number also does something during the game. So I'm going to explain to you what each number does now. And I'm going to start actually with the event here. The deal with the events is if you play 1 event and one of the cards that has one of the symbols, I'm showing you some different ones here, and there's only these 3 symbols, then you are going to keep the card, this one, but you're going to trigger some event based on the symbol there. And so the different symbols are as follows. If you trigger the lobby symbol, which is this one here, you are going to be able to, you don't have to, but you may switch 2 cards between any 2 players. If you trigger this one, the firearm symbol, you are going to kill a character out there that someone has. And if you trigger these, the sword symbol, you can also kill a character, but it can be at most the same number as the card you played, or 1 more or 1 less. So a 7 with an event lets you kill a 7, an 8, or a 6 that someone else has out there. So that's the deal with those. That's what these events do. Besides that, if you play 3 together, as I said, you are going to get a token which will give you, at the end of the game, if you have fewer than 10 points total, you're going to double your score. And if you have more than 10, then you're going to get 4 or 3 or 2 points, depending on the number of players. So let's get rid of these, and let's take a look at the numbers. 9 has no power at all because it's 9 points. 8, you can, at the beginning of your turn, if you have the most 8, at the beginning of a round, I should say, if you have the most 8, you can trigger a time travel, which means you kill one of these 8, and you are going to get a token here, which is a victory point, and you keep or take star player token. 7, if you have the most, you get this token. You, when you get attacked by the swords, you get to kill back. 6s here. You are going to get one of those points whenever you trigger an event if you have the most 6s. Very cool. These are victory points as well. This one says that when you play an event, if you have the most 5s, you get to keep that event. And that event would then be a victory point at the end of the game. Each one you've been able to keep throughout the game. You normally discard these. If you have the most of these, you play one, you keep it. Alright. Number 4 says that when you attack with swords, you get to do it twice if you have the most 4s. This one says that if you have one of those tokens, every round, basically, if you have one or the other, you're going to get a victory point. This one says that if you're attacked by the bullets there, symbol, you get to shoot back. Don't forget these, the 2, for example. There's only 2 2s in the whole game. Having the number 1, and there's a single one of this, is going to give you this shield. This is a shield you'll be able to put on any one family you have in front of you, and they are protected from being attacked, basically, with swords, with the firearms, the bullets, all of that. I'm going to show you here a sample score between 3 players. So I have one player here with all of this, one player with all of this here, and the third player has all of that stuff there. We just finished the last round, round 8. The last thing to do is check that no one has above 10 cards. No one does. And so now we would score the game. We're assuming it's over, we're going to score. We are going to take a look at each number individually and see who has the most of that number. So 9s, for example. This player has 3, none, 2. This player gets nothing for these. And this player scores 9 for them. 8s. This player has the most 8s. They're going to get 8 points for that. 7s. This player has 2. This player has 1. So this one is worthless. And they are going to get nothing for this one. 7 for this. 6s over here. 5s right here. 4s. We're tied. Nobody gets anything. 3s. I have 1, but this player has 2, so this is gone. 2s. Just 1 here. The 1 right there. And then we would also count these up. Each one is 1 point. And so this player has 15, 21. This player over here has 7 and 1 is 8. But they managed to hold on to this token at the end of the game. And if their score would be 10 or less, they would double their score. So they actually have 8, but they have 16 because of this. Now, if they were above that number, let's say they had 12 points, then this gives you a bonus 4 in a game with 3 players. But right now, that's great because they came in just under 10. They get 16. This player, of course, has the 8, the 5, the 3, the 2. These cards down here are cards they kept by having the most 5s during the game. And so every time they played one of these, they were able to keep one. That's 3 more points. And then all of these. And that's basically it. That's how you score the game. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how that happens. The first thing I noticed about this game when I first played it was that it had a lot going on, especially for a little card game. As you can see, every card has, most cards anyway, have some kind of power. There's a lot of tokens that do different things. You can have that one token that protects a whole clan, a whole family. You have, anyway, there's lots going on, which is both one of the best things about the game and the problem with the game, or, you know, the niggling issue with the game, which is that the game can be a little bit fiddly. There have been a couple of rules issues which are, you know, shouldn't crop up in a game this little, right? In a game this simple, really, ultimately. But they're there because there are so many interactions and there are so many little powers. But I like that in games. I like games that give you lots going on, especially with just a deck of cards and maybe a few tokens. So this is the kind of game that I enjoy. However, I could understand that some people are not going to like the fact that the game is really confrontational, that the game has a lot of things to sort of interact with one another. Wait, if I attack you with this card and the special one, you then attack back. But what if the card I kill is the one that allows you to attack back? Do you still get to attack back? Did you keep the majority through the attack? There's a few little issues like that. But really, ultimately, it's not that big a deal. The game's fairly short. It's quick. It looks great. It's well made. I enjoy it as a filler game with a little more than the typical filler going on. And so I would recommend it. If it looks cool to you, if you like the idea of this sort of area majority or set collection, really, but with powers on top of that, then I would recommend this one. I think it's worth checking out. It's pretty unique. I enjoy it. And I think it fills a nice niche in a collection. A nice filler with a little more going on top of it. So, if all that sounds good to you, check out Choson. A nice little card game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.